There we are.
Hi, Nancy Jean.
Hi, Andrea. I see that we're live now.
We are live.
Little voice that says we're recording this.
Happy strawberry full moon today.
It is strawberry full moon. Absolutely wonderful. And it's just a wonderful day. And everybody will feel the release. Once you get to the full moon, that's the release.
Okay.
It kind of like builds and builds and builds and builds.
A few hours now, right?
Right. It was actually 3:32 my time.
Oh, okay.
That's 4:32 your time.
Which was before.
I'm getting almost time zones down.
Hi, everyone in the chat. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. We are going to have another mind-blowing, mind-expanding, ascension raising.
We're going to talk about ascension, and we're going to convince you it's not an elevator shaft somewhere in the back of our house.
Right.
It's something you have in yourself and in your world, and how to get there from here.
So we will focus on today 3D, 4D, 5D, probably more the 4 and the 5, because we already kind of know what 3D is. And there's something I want to show first, if you don't mind, and if I can find it.
Okay.
Because even for me today, whoops, let me see, share screen. The differences between things.
Okay.
Okay. So let me find it. Let me see if this is it. Yes. So can you see it?
Yep. Yes.
So possibly the biggest confusion when people discuss dimensions is the difference between a dimension and a density. So even I mixed myself up today at first. Density emphasizes the specific frequency or state of consciousness or awakening or universal oneness that a being or object is generating or displaying at any point in time. So that's your comprehension, right?
Right.
What density? Are you in 3D, 4D, 5D? Dimensions, on the other hand, are shared realms where most beings are in the same density. So that would be a collective. So if we are both on the 5th density, I will meet you in the 5th dimension. Right? And of course, a higher density, your frequency is closer to source, or whatever you want to call it. More information, knowledge, awareness. Lower density is just sort of one note. So you just sort of know you exist, depending on how low you go. So I just wanted to get density and dimension clarified.
Right.
Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah. And density also is the thing you can feel. If you, as a critter going through it, we all talk about it, and they talk about it a lot in ghost hunting, where they all of a sudden they're going along and people they feel like the air is denser or it's heavier around them. That's because you're more in the duality of our human existence that it's been up to this point.
So if you are in the 3rd density on the 3rd dimension, that's most of humanity for the past several decades or longer.
Centuries, try saying.
Yeah. In theory, we and the Earth and whatever you want to call existence is moving into the 4th dimension, 4th density. But some people will still stay behind. And I think there's different, like I was just saying to you a few minutes ago backstage, is 3rd density has levels, and I think 4th density has levels, like your levels of understanding or your gifts or whatever comes to light. It's not all at once. I think it comes in and out, kind of like waves, right? Like,
well, it's like if you're learning a new subject, you don't master the subject all of a sudden one day, ta-da, you know it. You go through struggles of understanding that energy, understanding how to make those thoughts work. And then once you get it mastered, it's easier to be there.
Yes. And your gifts that awaken at each stage. So,
Right.
do you want to put your phone on?
I'm going to turn the phone off. Yeah, that's my maid. One of the person I was doing a live show with her, and she kept saying, "Is that Bewitched?" Yeah, it is. It's my notification.
So so right now, if you're noticing that your intuition is getting stronger, or all of a sudden you develop a gift that you didn't know you had, that's all part of this leveling through each section, right? It's not all at once. You don't wake up one day and you know absolutely everything.
Right. And even when you're up in the 5th density, you don't know absolutely everything. It's a different level of consciousness. One of the articles I read started that this energy shift on our planet started in 1950, which means I was totally 3D as a baby because I was born in 49. So I had 6 months of complete 3D. But the other thing is, think about it in relationship to you're getting a new communication and getting a new sense of the community you belong to.
Yeah.
I can remember when there wasn't TV. This image coming in your house and telling you all these things didn't exist. I mean, we had a radio. I can remember listening to radio dramas when I was really small. And then I do remember when we finally got TVs, it's about 1952. And then all of a sudden you have this other input, but TV wasn't there all the time. Your TV went off at 10 o'clock at night. They played the national anthem and jets flew across the screen, and that was the end of your TV. And then you just get this weird signal that had it, for some reason, the Indians had on it. Anyway, and so everything went away at 10 o'clock. And then things got to be more a part of time and more a part of time, and more was there and more was there. And so when we only had 3 national networks and then whatever local stations you had that collective consciousness that you could be part of. And then it changed when cable came on. All of a sudden everybody can go into their own little silo and only see what they see. And so if you think about the kind of change of consciousness people my generation have gone through, the first house I lived in for the longest was from the age of 1 to 14. Then my parents built a new house, but we had an old black dial phone down in the basement. And that was the phone we had downstairs for 14 years. In the first 14 years of my son's life, who's 30, he must have had, access to 15 different phones. So everything's speeded up, and that's why some people can it's kind of confusing. But if you think about it in terms of your own life, when you've had things change, when synchronicities have changed, when things have just started happening for you, that'll help you understand being a part of this. It's not foreign to us. It's where our consciousness is supposed to go. The universe doesn't give you more than you can handle. So I don't know if any of that makes sense to people. Yes.
Everyone is going through it.
Mm-hmm.
At different stages, at different levels, at different understandings. And that's kind of that's what we were talking about backstage, is that this change in density from 3D, 4D, 5D, again, it's not like you wake up one day and the grass is pink and the sky is fuchsia, purple, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're still here. It's your same body.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're still on Earth. Everything is the same, but how you comprehend, how you see, how you relate, how you understand changes. And then within that change, things do look different to you, just not,
Right.
Well, abstract. It's not abstract like pink grass.
Right. And you can hear other people talk about it, and you're like, the first time I heard about this whole shift was in October 2018, and I was in Colorado visiting a friend, and she started telling me about this, and I looked at her like she was nuts. I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you're going to go through these changes." And the first impression I had of it is somewhere there was a giant elevator shaft that we're going to get shoved in and taken up to another dimension. And And I was like, it was like, I don't want to deal with this. So then I was reading at the time at a wine bar, and the next month, 4 different times people showed up at my table and said, what do you know about the Ascension? What do you know about the, and I'm like, what the hell? I've never heard about this thing, and now I'm being followed by it. And that will happen to you. All of a sudden, people start talking about it. They'll start feeling about it. You'll start talking to people who said, oh, it's just so cool. I thought about doing this thing and then it happened. I had a friend, and this was her story about understanding the synchronicities. We were talking about women's underwear and how if they can invent all these incredible diapers for babies and stuff, why couldn't they find some women's underwear for those of us who were old enough to not be able to laugh really hard? And the next day she said she went home and she opened up in her computer and there was this leak-proof underwear. And she said, oh, I found what I was talking about. Now, that may seem trivial unless you're of a certain age, but it's that kind of synchronicity. You thought about something and there it was.
You tapped in.
Right.
You're tapping in, and then that information comes to you like a magnet because you are connecting on another level. So I'm going to, hi, everyone who's joining us.
Yes. Do you guys have specific questions about? That's London.
Okay. I'm just pulling up random things I pulled.
Okay.
In fact, it's likely that a majority of people on Earth are moving back and forth across 2 or 3 of these dimensional states of consciousness, depending on where they are in their lives, because it's state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can meditate and get to 4th, 5th density, right?
Right.
And then come back to your 3rd density when you argue with your husband over the dishes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we are all still living on the same planet and are surrounded by the same world, our perception of it will be different depending on which state of consciousness we are choosing to see things at.
Right.
Which is the point we're making. It's not going to be pink grass, but your appreciation of nature will change, perhaps.
Right. And nature is an important thing to hold on to. And it's happening to us right now this fast because we need to get in touch with nature and we need to help Gaia fix herself.
Yes.
And that's why this is happening now.
Those who are perceiving things in a 3rd density state are going to walk through life much differently than to someone who is perceiving it from a 5th D state.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to go through all that, but yes. Okay. So,
and the thing is that a lot of people, it scares them when they start to see this change. Change is never easy. But if they start to see that change, they'll run back to what they knew and even run back to things they didn't know, and all for conspiracy theories and false things like that. And there's also a term that I found when I was reading about a lot of this, and it's called neuroplasticity, where you can actually change how your mind works through meditation and some other techniques. And when you get neuroplasticity, it helps you move back and forth between the dimensions with less shock to your system.
So when I meditate, usually when I go to sleep, I spend some time, like I just did it now. I had a little quick nap after work. And I was like, getting into the zone or whatever. And I knew I was quite far. I think I might have even made it to the 5th. I'll tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to this state, and I don't know. I don't think I'm in the 5D right now. Do you? Parts of sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that people ask me, they'll say, "Oh, remember when you did a reading for me and you told me blah 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 blah." Well, we don't, and it's because we're in a different dimension. We're pulling out from a different way when we read you, and until I started really reading a lot of things about the different dimensions and densities, then I can just say to people, no, it's your reading. I used to always say to people, it's your reading. You have to remember it. It's not up to me. My poor little brain has enough stuff rolling around in it. But so I think that's where we do it. And one of the things I read was by a woman who's been a psychic all her life. And she said, she's so grateful this is happening now because now people she couldn't explain to them how she felt or where she was going or how her mind went places, she has a framework to explain that. And she also knows, she gets warning bells that say, don't spend your time in that lower vibration or into that 3D. If it's really the heavy duty, total duality, yes or no, black or white kind of sense of being, because that's going to wear you down and it's going to tire you out.
Well, on that, Jill has a question. Why would you want to come back to 3D if you can hang out in 5D?
Because I like food.
I haven't figured out how to stay, or maybe I have. See, that's the other thing. I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm most times I'm on the high end of 3D and into the 5D. So dancing back and forth from 3, 4, and 5, up and down and around, as it happens.
I've been told by an energy master that I'm now in 4D almost all the time, and the masters took me and put me there. See, apparently I'm supposed to be a master, but I'm addicted to humanity, so I like people so much I don't want to leave them. But he said they put me there because physically it does take a toll on you, and going back and forth between the different dimensions and energies. And I started having some physical problems that my doctor couldn't figure out what it was. Nobody else could. As a matter of fact, I was healthier than I'd ever been in years. And it was from that. And it was moving through the densities. And so they leave me in 4D now, which is, and guys, I can't tell you what the difference is, except I don't fall down and get goofy and feel dizzy. But
well, I find for me, when I do a lot of readings, or I need to rest quite a bit after. It is very draining. Or if I meditate or have really deep dreams that I know are something else, I really have to sleep a lot. I have to rest. I find it, especially for my mind, has to rest, because it's a lot to get all that information and then decipher it.
Yeah. Plus, you have a brain that was trained in 3D density. So it is a strain. It is a strain. And I've actually had one person who has studied this more that I've actually talked to about it. And they said that actually the structure of your body gets, if you go like in a deep, deep, deep thing and you're like really up there sitting around talking to the folks, your body gets in a more crystalline state. Now, I don't know what the hell that means, because don't ask me. People tell me these things. It's like when I channeled the garden in, and they were like, did you know this was, and I was like, no, I just knew this showed up in front of me. I drew it out. Alma created it. It's just there. It's like, it wasn't here in the middle of February when I thought of it, and it is now physically here, and it works, so, and they keep saying, well, does it make a difference to you? And I don't know how to explain this to you guys, but it really doesn't. I just do what I do, and I don't worry. I kind of don't really worry about the dimensions, but I'm finding some of the studies on neuroplasticity and how people can use that to train. Interesting for someone who wants to train. Apparently, this is like all of the other attributes in life, like physical education. I didn't train for that either. So, but I know that my spirit changed, and that had a lot to do with me being able to physically change my body.
Well, that is part of being up there in the higher. So for me, when someone says, why would you come back to 3D? So to me, I just want to get back to that for a second. When I say that, I mean, human thinking, judgment, pettiness, anger, frustration at work or something like that. Those basic feelings are when you slide back into 3D. Yeah. And they don't feel good either.
Watch the news.
They don't feel good. 3D doesn't feel as good as 4, 5, right? So when you have all those kind of, any of those really basic fundamental 1D feelings, 2D feelings, 3D feelings, they don't feel that good.
No.
They're not evolving you.
No, it's like when you say, I'm not going to watch the news, and people are like, well, you have to know. You don't know. We don't need to watch. I do watch news, but it's my narcotic, to get back on this planet.
Andrea Galvin, wondering if we are getting information from others as they are in other dimensions.
Yes, because
I
you're
think so,
connecting
yeah.
into the collective. You're connecting into the collective, yes.
Yeah, it's a good question. Let's see. So yeah, I've personally noticed for me since January, I think I've been going through a lot more and I guess leveling up or
Mhm.
ascending a bit more. I want to pull up something again if I can find it
Mhm.
in this technology thing. I don't know. Maybe it's this one. No, it's not that one.
Susan Fortier asked if we go through different physical changes in the different dimensions. I have been told that. I don't know it for a fact, but that's what I have been told.
Can't find what I want to find. Come on, guys. One more try. Maybe two more tries.
Two more clicks.
Okay. So here's some ascension when you're going through leveling, right? And I would say it's like the tide. Like sometimes you're ascending, sometimes you're pausing, sometimes it's a big wave, sometimes it kind of slips away, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So physical symptoms, ringing in the ears when you're tuning to new frequencies, that one I find fascinating. Waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. when the veil between the physical and the spiritual world becomes thinner. I'm sure most of you are experiencing some of these things. Vivid dreams. Fatigue as you try to up level in the human body. That's definitely me. Headaches sometimes. Women's monthly cycles can become more irregular. Dehydration, dizziness, or shape-shifting. Have you shape-shifted?
No, but I got dizzy and fell down.
You did.
And I did fall down, so my shape sort of shifted to flat.
Vanishing objects and flickering things while your eyes adjust to new vibrations of clairvoyance. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anyways, I can post some of these articles. There's quite a bit. It's really interesting. So there's physical, there's mental. Okay, so emotional instability with new cycles of old memories, behaviors, and cycles ending. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's physical and mental and ways to manage. I will post this, as I said, so you can meditate. Allow calibration, not fighting the symptoms, letting it happen. Slowing yourself down a bit as you notice these symptoms, so that you can,
Yeah, I noticed when I was channeling some writing once and I stood up too quickly. That's another time when I decided the floor was a better option. And I realized it was because I've been channeling stuff, so I wasn't physically all here and my knees just went wonk.
Mm-hmm.
But
wow.
I got up. I'm fine.
Spending time in nature, 100%, that will help you. Listen to your body, align with what feels true, and stay away from media or news that creates a feeling of fear in you. This is what we're saying, that those negative feelings, you will learn to stay away from those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a couple of things. So you'll notice changes on lots of levels and just kind of roll with it. I wish I would have known about this years ago. I did not know. I did not understand, and I did not know what I was going through. But I sure do now know what I was going through then. And so it helps me understand now as I level up. Thanks, Sheila. Lovely donation.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I had an energy reading from someone I kind of check in with other people periodically. And she was talking about how I had these shields of like diamonds, like triangles all the way down my body. And then she said, except your knees, what the hell happened to them? Well, I have artificial knees. And she said, well, you just need to talk to your angels and get them into it. She said that the diamonds were being attracted to the physical body I was born with. But I told her, trust me, it's so much nicer. And I can actually look at, well, I was thinking today about dates and times and when I felt the shift. And getting my knees fixed was enormous to me, being able to get up and walk and say, I don't want to walk the way I did before. I don't want to walk in that kind of pain. But I was thinking about that, and I went out on our front porch and I found a shiny new nickel. I mean, who dumps nickels places, right? So I picked it up, and it was made the year that I had my knees fixed. So I got a feeling that was an affirmation that, yep, that's a right one.
Nice. Okay, Debbie's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that the polarization in this country, referring to the United States, is a dimensional divide, at least third versus fourth? And that's why it's hard when it comes down to political beliefs. Yes.
Yes, because the base part of 3D is really duality. I'm right, you're wrong. Everything has hard lines. There's rules and expectations that everybody in general has people live under.
Judgments.
And as we shift away from that, people who want that certainty, they want to hold on to be anchored to that, they'll fight to go back to it. So, yes, I think that that's really an important feature. And that's why if you have a family member who's been kidnapped by the conspiracy theories, you can go try and talk with them and deal with them occasionally. But if you get in there with them, it's not going to make them move forward.
Everyone is on their own path, their own timeline, and some people will not leave this particular lifetime they're in past the third. They will not. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Some will leave much higher. They'll be in a density we don't even know exists. But everyone is different, and that's why there's such a political, I think that's why there's such a big divide right now, because those who are lifting higher are going a bit faster, and those who are fighting it or only want to stay down here, it is polarizing. It is really pulling apart, and you see the two sides now.
Yes.
Versus the collective being in the third, right? Now, and only a few people higher. Now we've got a lot more people getting higher.
And what was it? Time to shine. I have the same problem in my family, except I don't talk to him anymore. I gave up. You know.
You know.
And
okay, I'm just looking at questions here.
Yeah, I know.
Innes says intermittent fasting helps with my soul connections. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about fasting, and of course we're not promoting that. Always check with your doctor first.
Yes.
Yada yada. This is for entertainment purposes only. But fasting is an interesting topic. Do you want to talk about how that helps the brain and clears the mind?
Yeah, it actually in people my age, which is 70 and older, they can genetically look at our DNA, and it's actually helping the telomeres, which are the little sort of shoelace ties on the end of your DNA. Fasting helps that not deteriorate as quickly. And that's kind of what happens at the end of your life. Your DNA unravels. That's a really not scientific explanation of that, by the way. You would think the collective going to the higher good would be the higher good. The collective going to the lower things would be isolation, picking out a group, killing people. I mean, that kind of stuff. If you're in the higher vibrations, you're not doing that because you have an empathy for everything around you, and you wouldn't want it to be done to you. You have compassion and empathy for all the people who are around you.
And that's what a good lesson to think about and to practice is to show kindness and benevolence towards those who are not ascending as quickly or at all.
Right.
We have to be kind. We have to, wish them enlightenment.
Mm-hmm. But beaten. I've never of my story about that. I think is a friend of mine. I was alive when people were protesting the war in Vietnam, and a friend of mine was at the University of Indiana, and she had to go take her finals, and they were having great big riots on the campus, saying people to not fall for the plan of the man. Well, she was going to med school eventually, and she needed to take that final. And she said the irony of it was on the way to class, this one woman came up and hit her with a sign that said peace on it. So, and she said it was kind of counterproductive. And she did go take her final, and she didn't bleed or do anything horrible. But you can see that how weirdly we can get too far out of line. I always say I try to treat people with the grace that I was not always given when I was young and in a different dimension. And they didn't want to, and there was no literature about it, nothing written about it. So it was hard.
Hmm. Hitting someone with a peace sign is the opposite of
peace. Yes. It's like using Bibles to trap people. I mean,
Thank you to everyone in the chat, and thank you to the donations. Lovely, lovely. Thank you. So Andrea has another question. Is the purpose of ascension into higher levels part of the soul evolution? If we use our talents and connection with the idea of consciousness of highest good, will our physical lives be supported? So as you ascend conceptually, mentally,
mm-hmm.
Does the physical body sort of reap those rewards? Is what I think the question is.
Yes.
Or it's what I've turned the question into.
Yes. Yeah. Because you make better choices for yourself. And I know in my case, my doctor told me at my last physical that I'm actually aging backwards. And I know that there's a lot of that happening to people as they get more and more tied into moving forward.
I mean, logically, it makes sense. If you are vibrating on a really high level, you're probably healing yourself or staying at a healthy level or regenerating.
Well, that's what a lot of the neuroplasticity that comes out of this school of thought comes from. And a lot of the neuroplasticity started as people trying to heal themselves.
Have you ever had really bad cases of vertigo or ringing in the ears? I wish I would have known that this was part of it, because that's happened to me in the past during very transformative times.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was one of the signs.
Yeah, and you're like, am I going nuts? I had ringing in my ears started after a surgery, and they thought it was an artifact of the surgery, but it's not. But it comes and goes, and it's just when my angels are screaming at me that I'm not doing where I'm supposed to go. So just give me the universe. I'll move in the right direction, guys. Don't yell in my ears.
Universe can send you all kinds of signs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't listen, the signs get louder.
That's true.
Let's talk about 5D.
Okay.
Since you know for a fact you've been there.
Yeah.
What do you want to, what can you share?
I don't remember much about it. I had someone who's the same person who's doing my energy reading. She said she saw me in a large room with red walls, and I was surrounded by dragonflies, which happens to be my spirit animal and she said people were giving you information you were bringing back here. And she said they were treating you like you were a queen, but they knew they had to let you come back because holding you in the state you were in was physically challenging for you.
Mm.
And I know exactly when that happened. I mean, I know exactly what she's seeing. But once she opened up my eyes, then I can see it. But I think I kind of blank it out. But I know that I've been to places that are, trust me, I am in Texas in the middle of the summer. I know I've been to places that are more that are worse than that. But the only other artifact I think anybody saw was my vitamin D is way too high. And
Okay.
one of the people who talks about traveling between the different dimensions has said parts of your body are more crystalline when you're in 5D. And she said, so any light you would get would be super, super reflected through your cells, and that could raise your vitamin D. All my doctor told me was don't take anything with artificial vitamin D. That's all she cared about. It's really, and you got to realize in 2005 or six, I had my vitamin D was so low they couldn't find it in my blood. I mean, they're trying to wonder how I was walking
Oh my
around.
goodness.
So I've gone the other direction completely.
I don't know if I've been to 5D. I think so. I think when I'm, connecting really strong, I am. Must be or some dimension, some density, way past 3.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently 4 is like the bridge. You don't, like, a lot of people, I guess, you kind of go over 4 quickly to get to 5, right? I think the destination is 5.
The destination is 5, but 4 can be a holding pattern to give you a chance to settle in and to be able to go back and forth. I mean, that's why when I talked to the person who told me, they said they're settling you in 4 because when they take you to 5, you bring back too many physical challenges. So I go there, I talk to them, I bring back my stuff. And I mean, it sounds so weird. I'm going to this place tonight. But all I know is that when I read some of the things that I write when I'm in that channeling state. Now, when I'm in that channeling state, if you walk through the room where I was typing on my computer, I would look like I was here. I'm not like I'm looking like, I'm like, or anything else. I'm just, da, 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 da. And then I'll look at what I wrote and I'll go, oh, that's really good. I wonder who thought that up. But it sounds a little crazy, and it probably is.
We're not crazy.
I know.
We are superheroes.
Nickel Fritz, I have an answer for that in one of the articles I read. It's that when you're going between and you're coming back into 3D, you can start to feel all the pain that's around other people so much that you'll start to cry easily and often because your compassion is so much higher than theirs. And what you got to realize, a big part of 3D is victimization and manifesting things in that make you the victim or make you be hurt.
It's interesting because I have been filled with emotion this week.
Mm-hmm.
I was blow drying my hair yesterday and I started crying for no reason. And I've been dreaming or feeling. I told Debbie the other day that I've sensed someone heavily crying. I don't know who. Maybe that's the collective. But it's tapping into something because I know it's not mine.
And there's a lot of stuff in 3D to cry about. That in order to survive, I used to put a shell around myself so I couldn't feel what was happening with other people. I'm finding it harder and harder to put that shell up. So if I'm here, that's why I think I'm staying at 4D more. But, and also, things that used to just tear me up, and I'd get in there and I'd try to help the person. So I'm like, no, not my deal.
You can move back a bit from it.
Right.
Yeah. Shield Maidens. Where's the 5th dimension? I've been looking for it forever. Well, it's in you.
Mm-hmm.
It's your perception. It's your understanding. It's your connection to source. It's your connection to others. In 5D, there's like really no judgment. There's only love.
Mm-hmm.
There's the feeling of oneness with everything, the understanding. Things do. We say it's not like pink grass or anything will change. It's not that vivid, but it is almost looking at life through rose-colored glasses, in the sense that you look at everything with love. Like, I'm just looking at the trees outside and I'm like, they're so beautiful. I really love those trees. Mm-hmm. And I'm just feeling love for those trees.
Mm-hmm.
In 3D, you may not even notice them.
Right. Even when they saw them down.
So yeah, it's your
Andrea's gonna start crying for her trees.
Don't make me cry. I went on vacation. My brother and I went to Greece years ago. Mm-hmm. We were on Santorini Island, which is beautiful. And we were in this jewelry shop, and it was on like high up on Santorini. And the backdrop was the ocean, and you could see a little bit of the island. It was beautiful. And I said to the guy behind the counter, I said, "You are so lucky to work here." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Look at the view behind you," because it was all the glass wall behind him. And he goes, he just went this. So there you go. That's your perception. Right. My perception was, this is spectacular. You are so lucky to work here. You must be inspired every single day to see this. And he was like, didn't care. So, that would be him 3D, me 4D.
Or a friend of mine used to have an office, I think it was at Cornell, and it was up on a cliff. And so she rolled her desk over so she could look down, and people would come to her office and they'd be plastered against the wall because they're so afraid of falling. I mean, there's a wall of glass. You're not going to fall through the floor. But they were responding from their fear instead of, isn't this a gorgeous sight and I'm protected.
Right.
Right.
Right. Protected. Yeah, you can.
I was just bored. These people were afraid.
Debbie says I was in 5D for sure. At least when I created my tarot deck, I would say yes, and Nancy would say the same for her game and her oracle garden and her egg that she's made, and amongst other things she will make, myself included. Absolutely, absolutely. That was a full download. The whole deck appeared in my head. It's not like I sat there and thought, okay, I'll draw this, then I'll draw this. I don't have to think about anything. It just showed up. And that's what the masters say too, like Tesla, Einstein, those, brilliant masters of science or whatever you want to, or even musicians. They'll be like, the song was just there. I just picked it out of the air. Because you're tapping in.
That's right.
Are you distracted, Nancy Jane? You getting phone calls?
No. I'm trying to read the print on the side.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going.
No.
Jill, aren't we doing what we're doing, as in raising vibrations and spreading light to raise the 3D folks? I mean, we're not just doing it for each other that are aware already, right? So in my mind, I hope that if we send good vibes, and those people who are resisting 3D might find it a bit easier if all the vibration around them is safe. What do you think?
We each have our own path, and their soul may have a very different mission than you. It's not greedy to take care of yourself. It's like the airplane. That's the thing about it. If you have a child on your lap on an airplane and the oxygen masks come down, you put your own on first, because you could struggle with the child to get it on, and if you pass out from no oxygen, what's going to save the child?
Good.
So no, and some of us have been in these odd states, different places that were not defined and most people don't know about, or quite a few people know about it. There may be more of us that are in 4D than we know. But if someone wants to wallow in it, I think that's more the impression they're going to try to draw you back. And it's really easy. That's the other thing. It's really easy to get drawn back into 3D. I mean, I think we just had 4 years of it in my country.
I love it. I'm sorry. I love tapping into the 5D or wherever else if I'm getting higher, that's spectacular. People are right. Like, they're telling me, yes, I do tap in when I do readings and things like that. I guess I just didn't. I'm still learning too, right? I don't. I don't know if I'm I don't. It's hard to, I don't know if I'm always in 5D consciously. I try to be, but you know, we are humans.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's one of the things. Being a people pleaser and sacrificing yourself for others, that's the one. Um, but you can burn yourself out, and that's not what you're supposed to do in this life either.
No. And there's a lot, especially females, people pleasers, right? Putting everyone in front of themselves. Now, that's lovely that you're helping people. We're not saying not to help people, but you have to take care of yourself too.
Shirley Kemp, the one, did you see that? Yeah. We kind of explained at the beginning, it's a density of energy that you live in. That's the environment around you. And then you're collectively in 3D, 4D, or 5D, right? Is that what you were saying?
So density is your perception and comprehension and how you vibrate, right?
Right.
Dimension is where the collective live.
Right.
Or vibrate in or whatever, right? So Nancy, Jean, and I are both 4, 5, right? Limited 3. So we understand things very easily together, right? We're meeting on the same dimension because we're in the same density. Myself or Nancy Jean talking to someone who's in 3D, it's not an easy jibe anymore. Right?
Nope.
It's the space is quite significant in between. And that's why you will notice as you ascend, you may no longer, and I think we talked about this on the last show, you may no longer resonate anymore with members of your family or your loved, like your spouse or people at work or even your job or the city you live in. You know, you are changing. So therefore you are shedding some things and it could be even a friend. You don't really resonate with them anymore. Right? Because they're
right. And part of COVID coming to the world and stopping everything was to give people a chance to have space from the mental programming they had. I have to get up in the morning, I have to go sit in traffic, I have to do all those things. And then I go to my job, and it depends on how you feel about your job. And when COVID hit, it threw everybody back on their own resources. So a lot of people began to realize, I don't really need that kind of aggravation. They didn't have to go into an office and deal with a lot of 3D people. So they had a chance to try out their 4D, 5D selves. And a lot of people that were 3D people got tired of being who they were, and they've been changing too. So there's a lot of change and a lot of it has to do with some of the pain that's happened around all of us during this time of crisis. And how do we adjust to it? You know, I talked to, I did a reading for a woman. She's really upset because one of her oldest friends, he just won't let it go. He's just decided he's going to live in a constant state of mourning. And she's like, he's gone home, he slammed the door, and it's like, but the world's opening up again. He doesn't believe it is. I mean, he just wants to go live in that pain and grief. And we're talking about it, and she's realized already, there's not much you can do except to give them grace and let them know you're there if they want to talk about coming out.
Yeah. And it's not, especially if you're an empath as well, it's hard to watch this happen. But there's only so much you can do, and you need to keep ascending yourself, which is a great point here, Nick. Is there a forum where 40 folks can chat? I'd like to talk with others who have a feeling of belonging. So you'll find a lot of these people in the chats on live shows. There's also a community that's been made. It's called Tarot Love Community. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. And if Renee's here, she can also post it. And that is a safe haven for like minds. Lots of stuff going on there.
Yeah, if someone's reading cards and they're not just, and they're really reading cards and you feel moved by what they're saying, they're already in a large community. I was just born in it.
How high in levels can you go in human form? 5. How many levels exist? I was reading on that today. I don't know if they actually know how many levels. There's many different theories. So we'll say infinite for now.
5 right now is sort of where the human envelope is going, where
5?
you're going to meet enough people that it's going to be meaningful.
Yeah, I don't. In human form, 5 is the cap, probably.
It might be.
Or 7.
You got to realize too. I mean, we have some people walking around looking like humans that are aliens. So who knows where they go? I'm an earthbound person. I don't go on spaceships. I don't look for that. That might be a fun vacation.
How does an empath escape the overwhelming sadness from the boarding schools? I believe you're referring to the situation in Canada. I was quite taken with that story today too. It's very sad. So what you need to do, Dakota, is observe and not absorb.
Mm-hmm.
Observe the story. Understand there's nothing you can do. It's already happened. But you can send love and energy to those who had crossed over, all those children. If people don't know the story, there's schools in Canada where they're finding mass graves of Indigenous children that were, anyways.
It's ugly.
It's very ugly. I can barely get the words out of my mouth. So you can send love and healing and ask that never happen again. And for those who crossed over and the families affected, that they can find peace. But you cannot sit and cry in your room all day because that doesn't help anyone.
No.
And I'm not saying that to be tough, because I've done that too. Like in the past, if I watch anything sad, I'd be in bed crying for a weekend, right? But I've learned to sort of put that shield up and not absorb it.
I like this when people are in pain. Did you see that comment from Andrea? The other Andrea?
When people are in pain, I've found after a period of time asking, how is the pain serving you? It's like asking fat how it serves me. It was oh my God. Well, that's another question I've been asking myself. But anyways, yeah, the pain doesn't serve you.
Or it does, because it makes them feel exceptional and it makes them feel separate and it doesn't help them move forward.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That helps you stay in 3D.
That's how they stay in 3D.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you've had readings where you say to someone, well, I'm not telling tales out of school. I had a woman that came to me over a year. I would read people about once every 3 months. In the space of that year, she returned every single time and asked me about, would it go well with her old high school boyfriend? Now, this was a woman in her 30s, you know, and it had not gone well when they split up when they were in high school.
Yeah.
She'd gotten married, divorced, and was really trying to go back to being a 16, 17-year-old. And I kept telling, I mean, the cards did not look good. And I said, well, it's your decision, but it doesn't look good. And the last time I saw her was right before COVID. She showed up and said, is there any chance I'll get together with this guy? Well, how many times can you tell someone that is a dead end street, kid? You know, without being rude. And it is your own choice. I mean, maybe she could make some.
But people get hung up on stuff, right? You know, they got to let it go. If you're holding a candle or a torch, whatever it's called for someone, if you're pining for someone in the past, you have got to release that. Let the universe take care of it. You can't pine. You just let it go. If it's true love, it'll come back. And if it isn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, and you got to remember that one of the states in the 3D is people believe in being victimized. So that's part of the duality. They did this to me, and therefore I'm a victim. I'm not responsible. One of the first things you can feel when someone's heading into 4D is they start taking responsibility for what's happening around them. And that doesn't mean that they weren't the victim of someone, but they realize that person's not still doing that to me. And a lot of it has to do with your own thought and how you frame your own thinking. One of the things that I was listening to someone talking about changing your thoughts, and they said, put Post-it notes all over your house and say, was that the right thought? What are you thinking about right now? So that you become consciously aware of all that underlying programming you have. And especially for me, that was important because I really hate doing laundry. And I'm like, but I make the clothes dirty. And if I get them dirty, then instead of going in and saying, oh my God, I have to do laundry, I'm going to have wonderful clean clothes when all this is done. Just that much of a shift can change your energy.
Yes, your perception of it, your comprehension. There was a great question here. Renee's here. Hi, Renee. Renee, can you post the site, the Tarot Love community site? Someone was asking if there was a community of like-minded people, and I said there sure is. So Tarot Love community, we'll post that in the chat. Here it is. Andrea wants to know, when people have passed over, what dimensions do they dwell in? Great question.
My
person.
You want to talk about it?
No, you go first.
Okay. My understanding is they shed all of the ego, which is part of the 3D duality that holds them here, and they become a more what they really were. And I don't do mediums much. I mean, I don't do that work at all myself, but I've had 2 mediums read for me recently, and in both times my second husband Bill came through. And the woman said, she said, oh, he says you wouldn't recognize him because he has brown hair. Well, when I knew him, he was 50. That's when I met him and when we fell in love. And he always had gray hair, so I never knew him with brown hair. And I knew he had brown hair as a young man. And then she said, he's got an accent. I'm not sure I really am understanding him well. Well, he's British. I mean, but she said that he is overwhelmingly with me right now because I'm going back and forth between so many things, and he's here to help me achieve this task. And she said, you know, he asked about our son and stuff, but the person she described, she said, oh, it must have been so wonderful to be married to that man. She got the lovely side. I mean, he must have shedded it. And not that it was a horrible side, but it was just different. So
when and how people cross over determines and their state of mind and who they were determines how quickly they will ascend higher, right?
Acclimate.
There are some that stick around, right? And don't level up. They're, you know, for whatever reason, they're not ready to move on. And it can take some people quite a long time and some people instantaneously.
Well, you go through that whole soul look at everything you did kind of stuff. But I worked at a program, and the woman, she's an artist, and she would talk to people and she would visualize the person that had died that was on the other side. And then she had another psychic who worked with her who channeled their messages back to the earth, and she did a whole art exhibit. And one of the guys that they channeled back, he'd been a Hell's Angel, and he had a swastika on his forehead. And when she saw him in heaven, he had a peace sign where the swastika used to be. He was very upset about that. And he was talking, and what they did is they had a little phone that rang, and then it was like that spirit was coming through the phone and talking to this room full of people. It was a theatrical sort of thing. And this guy was as foul-mouthed as you could get, and he was pissed at hell because they wouldn't let him go further down the hallway, and he wanted to know where his swastika was, why he didn't have his peace symbol. And the family that he came from hadn't seen this thing before they did it. She kind of warned him. And I talked to one of them afterwards, and I said, that's exactly how he would be, and they hoped that heaven would hold out on him and help him cross. So I don't know. And he was really pissed because his angel, who was supposed to be teaching him how to get across, was named Stefan, and he didn't like Stefan much. It was wonderful.
Patty's husband loves your hair, Nancy Jean.
Okay.
We all love her hair. Shirley, any recommendations for authors to read on this? I found some great links today. I will post them in the comments section in the video once it's posted on my site, because we're in the live now, so I can't. So I will post that in the comment and pin it at the top.
And I found one article that I thought was really encompassed all the different things. And the woman's, it's been written over a period of 2 years. She's added from her blog. And she's the one that talks about the passage of what she used to just call concentrating and working on this into neuroplasticity and how that works in her own healing. So.
What is her name?
Her name is Helen White.
Helen White. And what's the article or the book? Or
The difference between 3D and 5D experience, why we should be interested in it. And her website is called spinningthelight.org. Spinning as in, like weaving, spinning. Yeah, spinningthelight.org.
Spinningthelight.org. That's a great name, Spinning the Light. Sue says, listening to music playing, paying more attention to lyrics and messages. Greatest love of all has more meaning today than ever. Last line, find your strength in love. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, it's only love.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fear is a 3D situation concept. The higher you go, it's only love. It's only love and understanding and oneness. And if you can tap into that at all,
it'll bring you great relief. Yeah, it'll bring you great relief.
It will bring you great relief. Yes. Sorry, I just have to turn the light on. It's getting darker.
Pro Love Community, do we want a 3D, 5D section bulletin boards? There's lots of interesting links out there. Because I know after Andrea and I did this the first time, some of the readers we know wrote us back and said, we need more of that. We need more hearing about that. Because it's one thing for us to talk about tapping into spirit and what goes on. It's been interesting for me because I found all these things that said, oh, that's why I did that.
Me too.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, when you say, how can I do it?
I know, it just happens. But I was reading a bunch of stuff this afternoon when I was supposed to be working and I wasn't. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I consider myself fairly evolved or enlightened, but I'm still learning. It doesn't just stop.
It does not.
Well, maybe the source, that's where it stops. But right now I'm still learning.
I think sometimes too, the source lets you go through it. And then when you read about it, you can go, oh, that's what happened. Whereas if you were sitting here saying, oh, this, it's like taking notes, it wouldn't work.
Oh, good. She's going to add an Ascension section in the bulletin board page.
Good. Awesome. I'll send her some links because I have several things I found.
Hi, Debbie. Debbie's here. Freebird Spirit. Hi, Love, Peace.
Yep. Learning something new every day does keep you young.
What if you're actually going through stuff? Does that mean you're stuck in 3D?
No.
It's your perception of it and your understanding of it. So we all go through some of the same things as humans, but it is your understanding and comprehension and how you deal with it that changes as you ascend. So people have told me in the past stuff like how to deal with things, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? But now I understand. Now I understand. And
the fact that you understand you're sort of in a continuing loop in 3D, look for the way out. And it will be presented. If you open your mind up and say, how do I get out of this? Pathways. And it doesn't mean the whole thing's going to end, but it means you're going to get glimmers and ways to get out of it.
And maybe stop, if you can, looking at everything that is wrong and start looking at things that are right. Like, I'm so grateful for the breakfast that I had today. I'm so grateful that I'm here in this chat with other like-minded people. I am so grateful that I watched the sunset tonight. I am so grateful that I can go outside and look at the strawberry full moon. If you just start saying thank you and be grateful and being positive, then those negative things in your life may become lighter.
Well, if your mind can't hold two thoughts at the same time, and trust me, I've raised kids, you can't. And so if you replace a negative thought with a positive one, you've already started to shift your own energy, and that will work. So,
Nasty Women Tarot's here. Hello. Hi, everybody. We're at an hour, but I want to keep talking. How are you feeling? You want to go for a little bit longer?
Sure. I'm going nowhere. It's 90 degrees outside. You should be.
It's too hot. I'm not going out. There's a good point. Even be grateful for the bad stuff. You don't even have to label it bad stuff. You can be just grateful for the lessons and the learning.
Yeah, I put out a thing on my Facebook, and it was said, often the things we thought were bad stuff were just the universe telling us to take a new road. Get out of here and go over there.
I believe,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm seeing it, that we are more rapidly ascending. We are more rapidly manifesting things. So for those in the chat, please remember to keep manifesting and putting forward positive thoughts. We got to do the work, folks. We have to, if we are of like mind and serious about it, we have to do the work and shed the negative, right? And live in love to help raise vibrations.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to look back at your history and look at the patterns, because the only way you're going to break those patterns is to look at them and say, that's not valid, or that was great. Why didn't I, one of the things that I've learned is if something really happens that I really enjoy, I'll sit down and say, okay, I want more of that.
Yes.
I want more of that good stuff.
Celtic Tarot, Sheila's here. Hello. Boy, everyone's dropping in. Okay, so I'm going to try to find some of the stuff we were sharing before.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, here's one I didn't share. We can share that one.
Okay.
So just to recap, there's a difference between dimensions and density. Even I was mixing it up. Density is your thought process and how you comprehend and deal with things, right?
Yeah, it's like the fog you're in.
Right. Dimension is where the like-minded people meet on that level, right? So if you are in 3D, you will stay. If you only think in 3D, you will stay there in third density. Fourth goes up. Hi everyone in 4D. Everyone in 5D. So it changes. So density is in here. Dimension is out there where you meet. If that makes sense.
And somebody's asking if you can go back and forth between them. Absolutely. It's not like an elevator that you get on it when you get off on the 4th floor. That's it.
Whoops.
You're doomed to be there.
Okay. Let me just try this again. Okay. So here are some samples of what it feels like in the dimensions. So in the third dimension, you experience things through your body. In 4, it's through the heart, and 5 is through the soul. Your main drive in 3D is lust, greed, power, those really low-level feelings, right, and drive. 4D is forgiveness, and 5D is purpose. And I know a lot of people, when I do readings, they want to know what is their purpose. So a lot of people are, leveling up. Perception in 3D is your 5 senses. In 4D, it's synchronicities, and in 5D is 6th sense. So yeah, we're definitely up in there. Communication. 3D's words, 4D's feelings, 5D telepathy. Main emotion, 3D fear, 4D trust, 5D peace. Let's see, it was another one. Love in 3D non-existing. So that's all fear-based, and the glass is half empty, not full. 4D is kind of conditional, and 5D is unconditional love. Values, that's a good one. 3D is money, right? Those sort of superficial things. 4D is love, 5D is unity. We're all one.
Right.
I love that addictions in 5D are impossible. Yes. Impossible to have an addiction in 5D. Isn't that fascinating? Because you're not physically based. You're spiritually based. Are you hanging with me? You all right?
I'm here. I pulled a card for this before we started reading, and this one I got was history. And this is from it's an oracle card, which are not my favorite things, but I read them. This was actually a gift from a friend of mine. She knew the person who who invented the deck, and it goes, your past leads into your future. Look into your past and learn, but keep moving into your future, where you will bloom and flourish with what you've learned. So I think that's kind of what we're saying to people. Look at how your life's rolled up to this point, and then decide which things were the high road and which kind of, Got a question?
Okay, I just want to share this one more thing.
Okay.
Once you reach a 5D state of consciousness, it is very difficult to go back to a 3D state. I agree. The higher you go and the longer you can stay in 5D, when you touch back into 3D, it's very uncomfortable. You don't like it. It doesn't feel good. And you quickly get away from it. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been part of being locked away from other people.
Once you're in 5D, you begin to understand we're all one and we're all connected. Life becomes an adventure of growth, and there is no such thing as good or bad. There is a higher purpose for all things, and every experience holds meaning. So again, it's how you look at things, right? Instead of things being bad, you look at it as an experience. And what was the meaning of it? Stronger feelings of love and connectedness, the planet, etc. Another amazing thing I read today is it's almost impossible for anyone in 5D to eat meat, because you won't harm another living.
Right. So well, that's why they don't let me into 5D on a regular basis.
I don't know. I've always been a vegetarian.
I know you have been.
I did. So I, tapped in pretty early. All right. Any last questions?
No, cookies and chocolate. Yeah, those are in there. I'm sure those are in 5D. Totally.
So yeah, don't be surprised if you, like we were saying earlier, as you ascend, things that resonated with you before won't anymore. That can be friendships, that can be television shows you like to watch, that could be a job you worked in. You're changing. Like to do changes, and what the energy you want to be in change. You may move. You may not like the vibration of your home or the city you live in.
Yeah, I heard someone discussing a show that was on Netflix, and they said it was sort of a ghost hunting show. So I went over to watch it, and I went halfway through the first one, and I went, "This is horrible." And then I thought, well, it was just that one was much more violent, but that's not it. It was just such an exploitation that I couldn't watch it. No, I turned it off.
It's not. I know. I was scrolling through Netflix or something, and every movie was violent or sexual or something like that. I'm like, I don't want to see any of this. Like, I want to watch something more enlightening.
Yeah, there's only so many cooking competition shows you can watch. You know?
Well, I do love food. Oh, Suzanne Fortier, this is a great point. That is why I don't know who I am anymore. Because you're shedding, you're changing, right?
Right.
You're not crazy. You feel different. You feel like things don't make sense anymore, or a job you've had for 20 years that you wake up one day and go, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're ascending. You're ascending. You're changing. And it's great. Look at that. The card I got, Return of Spirit.
Yes.
Yes. That's what we're talking about. Raising up, angel wings.
Going up.
Going up, next floor, next stop, 5D.
5D. Push you out of the elevator.
Don't you dare. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yes.
We will have another chat again soon. Can't wait to see the comments that get posted and more questions. Anything else you want to say, Nancy Jean?
No, I think for this show, this is we kind of covered it enough to get people. Now, if you all have questions after this, we both take. Oh, yes, we have one thing. Those of you who are watching,
right.
This is called a peacock stone, and this has not been treated or painted in any way except it's been dropped. But that's pyrite, but it's called chalcopyrite. But it's just has different minerals hit the pyrite, and they stain it. And I have a couple of them here. I have that one and this one has more purpley colors on it. You have to kind of, and they look like the colors out of a peacock's tail. So if y'all want a piece of that, I'm going to have a drawing. You know the drill. And I have the world's longest email address, and I'm sorry. Crystal directions with an S .nancyjean@gmail.com. You have to send me, do not put it in the comments. You have to send it to me by email, because otherwise I can't find you later and say you won. So if you
want directions,
yes, .nancyjean, and you can have a perfectly beautiful piece of peacock stone. And peacock stone is like all pyrites. It's really good for grounding. It's really good for helping you meditate into other dimensions. Actually, that's something I read today. So
there's her email. And how many are you giving away? 2?
2.
So the lucky 2 winners will get that beautiful, beautiful stone that she has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like my hair. Yeah, that's kind of how I ended up with it.
So tonight is a full moon.
Yes, it is. It was already
a full moon. You can put your crystals out on the windowsill, obviously inside, and your cards, if you have cards, and they can get recharged in the moonlight tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this conversation. I am learning. We're always learning. And I'm so glad everyone joined us today. And thank you. Thank you for the donation.
So much, everyone. And thank you for hosting us, Andrea.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
See you on the 5D.
Yeah, we'll trade notes up there like in school. We pass notes.